All right, welcome guys. Module 1, Lesson 1, let's make it happen. You are here. You made the hardest choice already. The toughest part of this course is signing up, is committing to take control of your new saxophone career, ready to hone in on those skills that we will go through in these 6 modules with me here. So just to start it off, let's just get it going strong. This is an onboarding document, what you're about to fill out, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. It's essentially to give me an idea of what your ideal goal is on your instrument. Everyone has a different plan, and whatever that goal is, I'm going to show you the correct steps within, especially this module, establishing our roadmap. But let's check out what this document is. You can see it below. It is the Onboarding Saxophone Professionals document. You'll see some questions here. But before we even fill anything out, I want to show you how to get this out of template mode and make it editable. So press File, press Make a Copy, and name it whatever you'd like. I'll just keep a copy of, but I prefer, I'll do it the way I want you to do it. I'm putting C, legato, onboarding, saxophone professionals. Make a copy. So I put my first initial and my last name. And now we are set. Now it is able to be edited. In the next link below, you could see how to submit this to me once you're done filling it out. But this is just so that there aren't a million saxophone players always editing my templates. Thank you for that. I actually survived off Google Documents through all of school, all of high school, all of college. I'm glad I'm able to continue that tradition going. Okay, first, your full name. So I could fill it out with you guys. Location, I am here in sunny Miami, Florida. And I've actually been playing the saxophone for 14 years. My current employment is I'm a professional musician. And my social media, you could find my personal account at colin.sax on Instagram. So you see, the first part's pretty simple. If that part's tricky, we might have another issue here during this course. But now this is where we start asking the nitty-gritty questions, the stuff that I can get to know you and get to know your goals professionally on your instrument. Saxophone heroes. This is big. I love seeing what my students' saxophone heroes are because it gives me an idea of what type of player they sometimes strive to be or they gain inspiration from. So you could talk about, for me, when I first picked up my saxophone, my father introduced me to Sonny Rollins. That was like my first real, true saxophone love. And that's on the jazz side. On the contemporary side, the first concert I ever saw was David Sanborn, and my father also took me to that. However, I have a ton of creative influences outside of the saxophone, so you can also share that. Bob Dylan is one of my favorite artists of all time. I think that his songwriting is right up there with all of the great jazz composers. Just obviously a different medium that he's using to tell his stories, but I think he is one of the best songwriters of all time. So you see how I listed some saxophone heroes, spoke about who I listened to in that field, and also listed a creative influence. Your music business heroes. Are there any musicians right now that you see in your life or online or in the professional world that you look at their career and you're like, man, that guy is killing it? They don't even have to be a saxophone player. They don't even have to be fully a musician. You could kind of more on the business side of it, more on the engineering side of it. I mean, there's so many ways to get your slice of the music industry pie here. So, everyone has a different hustle. And I love seeing what hustles inspire you guys. For me, ever since I was in high school, I was so impressed by the way that Bob Reynolds does business. So he's a saxophone player, and he tours with groups like Snarky Puppy. So for him, I would put him as my music business hero because he's touring the world while also being an educator and making money from his album sales. He has many modes of income, which is something we'll also be getting really, really deep into within these 6 modules. This one isn't as important because I think that a successful saxophone player will be able to hone in on any of the saxophones in the saxophone family that make them money. Where would you like to be in 10 years? Think about this one long and hard. Don't be afraid, though, for it to seem unachievable. Like, what is your absolute dream gig? Think of that big artist you've always wanted to tour with. Maybe even, you want to be like a Chris Potter. You want to be a name. You want to be a face in the jazz scene. Anything that you could imagine. Maybe you just want something that you could raise a family on. Maybe you want a career that you dream of, a career that you could raise a family on and income. And that's very attainable. But don't be afraid to dream high, dream big. I just want to see where your head is at. And, if you're anything like me, these bullets will change a lot throughout not only these 6 modules, but the entirety of your career. I've gone back and I've changed in my mind what my dream is for 10 years. I've changed in my mind who my heroes are in the music business and outside of just like general business heroes. The more you meet people and the more you network and the more stories you hear from other musicians, you'll see that there are dreams out there, that there are possibilities in this industry that maybe aren't pitched to you when you're, in music school, or maybe they're not pitched to you by a lesson teacher you have in lower grades. Or maybe it's not even something that you see fully on social media. There's a ton of ways to make side money in this industry that maybe aren't as glamorous as your current 10-year pie in the sky dream. But I want to hear what it is, and I want to report back, and I want to have a little chat about it. And this one is the hardest. I'm not your therapist. I'm not here to take information out of you that you do not want to share. But whatever you're comfortable with telling me, the more you're comfortable with telling me, the easier it will be for me to help you throughout this course for sure. But once again, whatever you are most comfortable sharing with me, I'm never going to pry something out of you that you're uncomfortable sharing, especially in this front. But what is your current biggest struggle? Now, if you're like me, some years ago, that struggle was in the financial world. That was something that I was trying to get out of. And that's something that I could not stop thinking of every day of my life. I was like, how can I make a career for myself where I make money? And that was my biggest goal. That was my biggest struggle. But is it creative? There's a lot of fears that come along with working in the music industry. Once you're here for enough time, you'll notice that, at least for me, a fear that I had is that I would lose the love of my saxophone because I was too worried about the finances. And that was something that was a huge fear of mine. Maybe it was never, thank God, it never became a huge struggle for me because I figured out the financial side fast enough that it didn't get to that point. But I talk to a ton of musicians all the time that their biggest fear or their biggest struggle is that they're so worried about making a buck that it makes them not love their saxophone anymore, or even their instrument outside of the saxophone family. Just any musician, professional musicians run into this sort of issue all the time. What troubles you today? If it's something that's not creative or financial, that's more personal that you're willing to share, that's also super valid. Oftentimes in this career, it's actually really hard to compartmentalize your career from your day-to-day because we are music consumers. Once again, I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with music. I'm obsessed with making music, with listening to music, with playing music. On stages, anyway, teaching music. These are obsessions that I have. And it's funny, you talk to someone for the first time and they always ask you like, well, what are your hobbies outside of music? And for me, it's always been hard to have that because everything in my world, including my personal life, has surrounded music. And that, if that's like you, then maybe your biggest trouble right now isn't creative or financial, it's more personal. Once you have this document filled out, we are going to submit this to me. And in the next short little clip, I'm going to show you the correct way to submit this document to me so that I could review it, I could comment on it, I could check out where we're at so that I can bring us together to the journey to taking back your saxophone career. So really quick, I want to thank you guys again for starting this program, starting this course with me. And we're going to learn so much together throughout these 6 modules. Let's get it.